You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We're the ElseNerds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special ElseNerds spoils idea that I've been working on to do on a somewhat regular basis. And here joining me is Brandon Raymond. You might know him from the Ink Geek Studios. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, well, just like on our shows, I am Brandon.
Yeah, and much like on my shows, I am Greg. But today we are going to talk about the Dark Tower, and I asked this on Friday, I believe, because I had seen it opening night, and I'm like, okay, who's read the book? Because I've heard, from a lot of people that I would normally, if I was unsure of a movie, there are people that I will go to, Brian Brushwood, like Corey, Sean, my friends. I would be like, okay, so what are you hearing about this movie? Does it sound interesting? Go see it. And I heard, Brian Brushwood, who's been a big Dark Tower fan, like, yes, come on. Yes, it's going to be so good. And I've heard him sort of shit on the movie. And I'm like, but wait, what? Why the negativity towards the movie? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to, and we're going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about the books, because I'm coming from this only seeing the movie. You're coming from this reading the books first, then seeing the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm going to start on my end a little bit, just because I don't have the backstory.
No, definitely about the movie. We should talk about the movie first, and then I will fuck the hell out of it.
And by the way, guys, if in case you didn't catch that, we will swear and spoil things like we do on the ElseNerds show, so you have been warned. The only difference is this is going to go on Patreon for like a week or two before everyone else gets it. So I enjoyed the movie. I honestly, from what I had understood from a couple friends, this takes place after the book, and all that. But I look at this and visually I liked it. There was only one scene in here that I didn't like, and it was when Idris Elba's gunslinger was staked to the tree by the creature from the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Like the visual effects in that, I don't know if it was just me like over analyzing, but that looked a little dated, and I'm like, wait, this is 2017. That shouldn't look like a 2001 version, like effect.
No, but then go ahead. I will wait for my turn.
No, yeah. And so like that was the one part I had, because it's like, and you counter it with a creature that looked really good, looked like it was there, with the little tentacle thing isn't really there and stuff, and what the fuck, visual designers, was this the last thing we did and we ran out of budget? But I mean, so overall, the overarching story, before we get into anything, you've got this Dark Tower that is like the center of the universe here, and it protects us from the outside, protects us from the nasty creatures that are out there. And Matthew McConaughey's character, which I'm blanking on his name, it's the Man in Black, but then it was like Walter, yeah. He wants to destroy the tower because he wants to unleash chaos, and Idris Elba is the gunslinger. He wants to, he's been assigned and born and protected to protect that tower. And we meet little boy who has visions and is psychic, or what do they say he has? He has the sight.
Shine. So it would be The Shining, right? So The Shine.
Yeah, The Shine. And as I want to say, hilarity will ensues from here. They go out and invent an adventure and all this. I will say overall, I did like the movie, because it was a safe movie. It was one of those movies that, if it warranted enough, buzz and made enough in the box office that it would definitely warrant a sequel, but it wrapped up enough things to where it could stand on its own and not have to have sequels, or I guess there are talks of TV shows and stuff like that. So Brandon, what did give us your side of this here?
So where to start? Where let me start with the creature and that effect that you didn't like.
Yeah.
So have you ever read The Mist or seen The Mist?
I've seen the trailers for The Mist.
Okay, so The Mist, what The Mist actually is in terms of the Dark Tower is what's called a thinny. It's a thin place between worlds. So you have your end world, your outworld, where the tides recede and those monsters live.
Mhm.
So that's a rip in reality where they can get through. But if you've never read any of the books, you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So in terms of The Mist, just one little cloud poof out of nowhere with one monster jumping through. Oh, I hated it. So wrong. In relation to the Dark Tower, there were so many other creatures that they could have used for the movie.
Yeah.
It was that. Just like, so you have Walter, the Man in Black, Flag. Do you know who Flag is?
No, I don't think
Okay.
I probably do, but if I'm forgetting because it's been a couple days since I've seen the movie.
Well, before we get into all of that, the movie was all right if you look at it as an assembly line tropey movie. I mean, just normal Hollywood movie. I didn't like how they threw in a lot of nods to Stephen King, and if you aren't a super fan and haven't read all of the books, you're not going to know what you're looking at. And they throw in a lot of stuff that they just, assume that you're going to know about. But at the same time, I guess, if you went in blind to it, right? You didn't really feel like there was a lot of lore there that you needed background for?
No, not really. I mean, it was like I knew enough from what they said in the beginning to where I'm like, okay, it did seem like a basic plot. They are, they're gathering people, or kids who have the shine to try to take out the tower,
Right.
so that the chaos can ensue. And they get the one kid, I think his name is Jake.
Jake Chambers.
Yeah, Jake Chambers, who it's like boom, off the scale or whatever with the shine. And the gunslinger is protecting him, or he's protecting the gunslinger, depends on where you're at in the movie. But it did seem like a basic plot, but it definitely a safe plot that I could see for a franchise to start
My
from.
problem with them starting a franchise is, do you want me to spoil the end of the books?
Yeah, go for it.
So in the end of the books, Roland, the gunslinger, ascends the tower and opens the door. And Stephen King leaves it there, where you don't know what happens. He gives you a definite ending, but he gives you a disclaimer. He says, well, I've been writing this for decades, and I don't want to screw it up for you, so you can stop here, or you can read my ending. So his ending is that he ascends the tower, opens the door, and ends up at the beginning of the first book again. The Man in Black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. So the idea is that he has to repeat this quest indefinitely until he gets it right, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So what this movie is the next time around the wheel in that quest. My problem with it is, well, they've made Walter the main bad guy. Walter was an agent of the Crimson King.
Mhm.
So the Crimson King sat atop the tower, and he was the one that wanted to bring it down. And they've also made the gunslinger hell-bent on revenge instead of a quest for the tower to save the tower. I mean, he's on that road, but it's mostly to kill Walter for killing his father. That does happen in the books after Walter seduces his mother and then kills his father.
Yeah.
But this movie doesn't leave it open for anywhere to go in terms of the tower. You don't even get to the tower in the movie. He kills Walter happily ever after. So I don't see what they could do after that and have it relate back to the original quest.
Could it, well, with what you're saying there, with the people might not like the ending, which I do like that. Like we get, like we get 4 movies and they just go pause, and we get Stephen King coming on here. Now you might not like this ending. This isn't my ending. This is, this is the writer's ending of the movie. But we're, so if you want to leave now, and people will leave or whatever. And then they continue on with the ending, and it's the beginning for this Dark Tower, the first Dark Tower movie. But couldn't it also be like with them doing this, like it's almost like we've just done it, the whole choose your own adventure where he chose wrong, and the next time it's going to be a lot of a lot of similar premises, and then maybe he changes, like where he's not just hell bent on revenge because Walter killed his father and stuff like that. Couldn't they do something like that?
They could, but they've given us an ending where Jake and Roland just kind of walk away. There's no reset, like are we just to take a leap of faith that they somehow time got funny and they just time is funny?
Well, couldn't it be because with where they ended in the movie, they go through a portal?
Yeah,
that starts in the next one. Like it takes place, right there.
That's true. So the next movie starts with them being like, "What the hell just happened? We're back at the beginning."
Yeah. Basically, yeah. I think I just described a Groundhog Day franchise.
Yeah, basically. So, what you have to understand about the tower, I mean, when I was a teenager, I was in the middle of reading these books, and there were only 4 out at the time. After Stephen King got hit by that van in the early aughts, that's when mortality became a real thing to him, and he finished the books. I think he rushed them. When you get to book number 5, he's written Harry Potter into it and Doctor Doom and lightsabers and made this amalgam of pop culture in that world, which is cool to a point, but he changes letters and things. You'd have to read it, man.
Yeah.
And then by the next book, he's written himself into it. So it gets very meta. It's crazy. But for me, when I was 16 and I was reading Wizard and Glass, which is the 4th book, and if they do make a TV series, it'll be Wizard and Glass. I think that movie was about young Roland when he had all of his other gunslinger friends and the first love of his life. There's a witch involved, takes place in the desert. It's very Western, very romantic. There's a thing called Merlin's grapefruit, which you saw in the movie. You saw the wizard's rainbow, all those orbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That plays a big role in the book. Each one does a different thing. You kind of get sucked into them. They hold a lot of power. But I think if they did a series, it would be about young Roland, and then you could have a whole nother mythos there all by itself, kind of like in the comics.
No, yeah, that's the one rumor I heard, is that they are going to do a young Roland, like prequel,
right?
Sort of thing.
What they did in the movie was make an amalgam of all 7 books. They kind of pulled from everywhere, and the tower being the nexus of King's reality within his books. All his books are connected. So the main character from Salem's Lot ends up being in the Dark Tower story. If you've ever read Eyes of the Dragon, the wizard Flag is Walter, and Flag in The Stand. He's everywhere, right? In Wizard and Glass, in the end of the book, they end up in Topeka in the world of The Stand. So basically, as they cross through realities, they end up in all of Stephen King's books and vice versa. So I think in terms of the movie, what should have happened was an animated movie, or a series of animated movies, or an animated show. I don't know about production, but less money in animation. You could have had all of your characters, all of your effects, and told the story right, instead of having to do what the studios always do, make an amalgam of things and just have it all mushed together. As a fan of the books, I get where they have to change the story and make it work. But as a purist, it's so frustrating. They left out Ka, which is essentially like Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
They left out 2 other main characters and left it with just Roland and Jake. If you've ever read Hearts in Atlantis, that's all about the kids with telepathy, and they can break the beams that hold the towers. So you saw the map in the movie The Wheel?
Yeah.
There's 12 beams, and on the 13th beam, you'll find the tower. Those beams hold the tower together. And the idea is that these kids with telepathy, they're called breakers. The Crimson King has sent Flag, I forgot his name in the movie, Walter, sent him to find these kids and bring them back. You saw it in the movie where they were using their powers.
Yeah.
They left all of that out, right? So he goes to get the kids and they bring the tower down. But that's just another instance of all the other books coming into the Dark Tower, because that story is not in that book. It's in Hearts of Atlantis. Totally different book. So there's just all these little things that you can tell it boggles my mind. There's so much to it. There's so much to say. I don't even know. There's a lot, man.
So I think I get where you're going, and it's turning me more towards your side because where I do enjoy this for what it is, it seemed like the studios played it safe with this movie because of the fact that it's this, as you're saying, it's this amalgam of all the other, the stories in the Dark Tower series, to where it's sort of like you're shooting yourself in the foot for what the second book could be, or the
Right.
second movie would be.
Right. They
And,
made a studio friendly movie that would appeal to the layman fan, the fair weather fan,
yeah,
and threw enough stuff in there that you would think the diehard fans would like it. But as a diehard fan, seeing all that stuff there was just a taste, and it just made me angry.
yeah, yeah. It's basically like, here, you get a bite of this prime rib, just a bite. You don't get anything else.
And I mean, just
And
quintessential things, man. The guns,
yeah,
wrong guns, and they sounded weird. I hated the holsters with the rings instead of just having single bullets. I hated that. There's reference and reference and reference to water skins in the books, and he ends up with a flask. Little things like that made me nuts. And then the world that he's from, Midworld,
Mhm.
well, the world has ended. It's a dystopia. The world has moved on, as they say in the books. Awful lot of people in a world that's ended, man.
Yeah,
Like first like 2 books is Roland by himself for the most part. So, and then the Jake thing, he wasn't a breaker in the books. I see where they melded that together to make the story work. But he ended up um, being a gunslinger in training, a lot like in the books, but the way they did it, a lot like in the movie, but the way they did it in the movie, they had him chant the mantra and then gave him a gun. I mean, a gunslinger would never give someone his guns unless he absolutely had to. It would not
yeah,
be easy. They're trained from babies to be gunslingers. So again, I get it for the sake of time, but it was a 90-minute movie. Did it need to be 90 minutes? Don't you think it could have gone and followed suit with all the other movies we get nowadays and been longer than that?
yeah. I mean, it did seem short, especially with knowing now that they crammed so much stuff into it. Like, it seems like if they would have almost done what Game of Thrones does,
Right,
where the first season was the first book.
right.
You do that with this, where you do, because I believe they were talking about when this was first starting to get developed, like it was going to be and I believe this is when Ron Howard was going to do the films. Is like, first movie is going to be the first book, and then we got a TV series to bridge the first 2 movies, and then the second movie, and then another TV series to bridge movie 2 and 3,
Right,
and stuff like that, which makes perfect sense with this, with how you're sitting down and explaining this universe,
right,
and how I'm understanding this universe. Because even with movies, like, I could see them, because Doctor Who's done this plenty of times, where they bring in people from, like, from The Mist and from other Stephen King books that are in this universe that have been made into movies,
hmm
and you put them in here, even if it's just like a little, like, teaser thing up there, like as they're cycling through portals or whatever. It's like, oh well, here's The Mist, and here's a clip from there, and here's Carrie, and here's here's it, and then, oh, here's the new it,
yeah.
and stuff like that.
See, as far as
I
I'm concerned, they could have done it in 3 movies. The first movie could have encompassed the first 3 books. You could have Mad Max the whole first book in an opening montage with him in the desert. You could have
Yeah.
told that story in the opening credits. Do that. Open with him on the beach. You haven't read the books.
No,
open with
but go ahead.
him on the beach on the Eastern Sea. Have him open all of the doors. Find Eddie Dean. Find Susanna. Get Jake back, and then end the movie in the wastelands and having him go through the city of Lud. And then the next movie is Wizard and Glass because that's super long and it's a flashback. So open it with them around a campfire, just in the book. Flashback, have a whole different set of characters, young versions. Get River Phoenix to be young Roland. It'll be cool. Bring him back from the dead, whatever. And then the last movie will be the last 3 books. There's so much detail in the last 3 books that I don't think needs to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, they turn golden snitches from Harry Potter into golden sneeches, and they're basically heat-seeking grenades. And then they have these things called wolves that look like Doctor Doom, but they have lightsabers and they're robots. You don't need any of that. That can all go away.
Yeah. This
So skip all that and just go right to the tower.
with how you describe that part of the book, I'm like, wait, so it's like Ready Player One, but if
Yeah.
Ernest Cline did crack.
Yeah. It's dude, like again, going back to what I said earlier about I would walk home from my girlfriend's house when I was a teenager and I would see the moon and I would think, reap moon, char you tree, right? All stuff from the book. I was very, I don't know. I really wanted to be in that world as a kid. So to be that way as a teenager and then get those last 3 books as an adult and to be that let down by it,
Yeah.
super painful. So yeah, if you're gonna make that kind of movie, just I'm fine with not having any of those details there.
But yeah, so I mean, I feel like this has helped because the other thing that I think sort of shot the movie in the foot, and there's a little bit of play there, is the fact that there wasn't any early reviews.
Right.
I mean, it seems like everyone had an NDA, was forced to sign an NDA until, Thursday.
Right.
Like,
And even that is pretty telling. You know what you're going to get. If Stephen King movies of the past are any indication, you know how it's going to go.
yeah. And, but I don't know. I see, I don't like saying this because Corey, whenever I say this, Corey's like, oh, well, I didn't mean to do that. But, where I still enjoyed the movie, I'm now like, because I know how I am with the Marvel superhero movies. I know how I am going to be with Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm.
To where I feel for you and for the other, Brian Brushwood and all the other Dark Tower book readers and book fans at why this was a letdown. And it's because it rushed probably isn't the best word, but it is at the same time.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, because it was like they're rushing the story when they could have taken their time.
Right. And especially with all the early plans to spread it out the way they said they were going to.
Yeah.
They just followed through. And I understand it's been in development hell. But just the same, man, like all that content and a lot of my time in my younger years spent just.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like X-Men, right? I mean,
yeah.
I grew up waiting for those movies and they just fucked me with those movies. What are they doing? But on the other hand.
And then you get Deadpool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Guardians, right? Guardians, Cable, and Deadpool were my favorite comics of 20 and X-Force. And at least with Guardians, when I went to see that, oh man, if you can do that with something so vague, like give me a break, man. You can do it with anything.
No, yeah. So let's do it this way. We'll sort of like, well, I'll wrap this up this way. If you are a fan of the book, I would probably wait until this comes out on a streaming service that you are subscribed to. I don't think it would be in your behoven of you to go see it in the movie theaters. But if you even if you're not a book, like if you haven't read the books, I would say like it's a solid rental. Like it's a solid catch it on Netflix.
Yeah, if you're gonna go to it clean without having been down the road of the books, I mean, yeah, definitely. It's not a bad flick. It's just being in my position, I'm saddened by it.
Oh no, it's understandable because I look at that like we had for one 200-page book, 3 movies out of it. Originally started to be 2, then it became 3, and I'm talking, of course, about The Hobbit. And that one, I'm like, wait, I've read this book. What? Where did this come from? Why is the 3rd movie essentially one big long action scene? Like, why is this just a big fight and all that?
Right. And so even with that, like I don't have that much invested in that world, so I was okay with it, right? Like I just was happy to go back into that that reality, that universe for a while. But I hear you.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. I leave this to you guys. Write us at mail@ElseNerds.com. give us your reviews. Tell us, who you agree with, who you disagree with. I would be glad to hear all that. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 805-328. I should have pulled up the doc. Damn it.
I can't help you, man.
No, you're good. I'm like, don't do the number. Don't do the number. You don't remember the number. And I'm not editing this out either, so this is gonna be fun.
We'll have to hard maybe.
Should have planned ahead. Oh, come on.
While you do that, what did you think of the casting? Were you fine with that? I mean, having no.
I like the casting. I mean, Idris Elba.
I thought Idris was great. I mean, I don't care about any of the racial aspect of it or not. I like Idris Elba. He's awesome. And if you've ever seen Real Rock and Rolla or are a Guy Ritchie fan, yeah, man, I love that guy in that movie.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry. I think a lot of what it was with Roland is based off Clint Eastwood, right?
Yeah.
There's machismo is for all intents and purposes dead now, right? You're not going to find the man's man, and you're not going to quibble over, well, who's the perfect guy? Just totally change it. It's fine. I was good with that part of it. My contention is McConaughey is Walter. If anybody was going to be him and match like the character in the book, it should have been Binglebert Humperdinck Cumberbatch, Benedict Cumberbatch, that guy. That would have been. That would have matched up finally. But I mean, I could go on and on about the differences. It's not about the differences though. So
no, yeah, and I mean, I even like that they got Dennis Haysbert to play Roland's father.
Yeah, that matched up really well.
Yeah, like, and I mean, even in like just like it was such a small little scene, where they're reciting the creed and all that, and I'm like, this is really good casting. I mean, the only part that kept taking me out of the, but it's nothing that could have been done. I would have gotten taken out of the movie anyways. The actor who plays Lon, I kept going, is that Jordan Masterson? Like, is that the oldest brother from Malcolm in the Middle?
Yeah, I hear you.
Sad
that Winnick was killed though. I love her in Vikings. I didn't realize she was in that movie. I was super happy to see her there and was super bummed out when she died.
Yeah. But I mean, everyone else, I mean, I don't think I have seen a movie Jackie Earle Haley has been in that I did not like.
No.
And no, I mean, he's great in here, and I'm gonna include the first season of Preacher with that. But yeah, I like the casting. The only real problem I had was, and it was more on the digital effect side. It wasn't even like, oh, there's a creature here. It's more like, it seems like they cheaped out on the thing that had stabbed Roland in the heart and was wrapping around him. Like they just cheaped out in that little bit, but big budget, with everything else. Like I could believe that it was all happened, like it was all there.
And it's funny that they put that scene in the movie because that never happens in the books. But what does happen is Roland loses 3 fingers from a lobstrosity, a giant lobster.
Yeah,
that's it gets his gun. So I guess you can't really have that happen in a one-off movie about the gunslinger. He needs both his guns for the most part, but
yeah.
And you need to have some kind of monster, I guess. But they also had the Guardians of the Beams. They could have had those at every one of those portals. I mean, there was a guardian in that haunted house, but they have animal guardians for each end of the beam. They could have worked that in there somewhere. But and by the way, Jackie Earle Haley and Preacher, I just binge watch. I'm caught up now, but Preacher is like my new favorite show.
I'm waiting to binge. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I'm waiting to binge season 2.
So far, I'm current on that. The last episode was excellent.
Yeah, where did I stop on Preacher? This is besides the point, but whatever. It's I think I stopped episode 3 or 4.
Yeah, so like Dallas.
Just before Dallas, it was episode 3 because it was the 2-night season premiere, and then I did the next week, and I'm like, like other things came up, and now I'm like, I will binge this like I did for season 1. Like I binged quite a bit of it.
I watched season 1 on Hulu, and then right into season 2 just like a couple weeks ago. I mean, it just happened. That's a comic I haven't read, so I have no point of reference for that.
No, that's where like I have the first volume. Like this is one that Beatmaster and Core were both like, you got to read the comic, you got to read the comic, you got to read the comic. And I'm like, all right, I've got it. And I read, and it was the first season was the prequel to the comic.
Mm-hmm.
So like where where this first season ended with them in the diner, that's where the first comic started.
Oh, really?
Like the first graphic novel, because I read the first like 3 or 4 issues. And all that, and it's a good, like I don't get me wrong, I love the creative team of Garth. I'm looking up at the book right now of Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. I love that creative team. I love how that looks. It was just one of those like, I ain't really got time to read comic books when I'm like always a week behind. Got caught up, by the way, but that's a separate. That's like an aside on an aside.
I could go on and on about that too, man. But anyway, didn't mean to go on a diatribe about everything else. So.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. I didn't really have any format for this show other than let's talk about the movie and and then compare it with the book and talk about the books and all that stuff too. So I like how it went. But like I said, you can let us know about all these things over at mail@elsenerds.com. I read all the emails. And you can send us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. I had that in my head. I just forgot that it was 3966. I thought it was 3699 or something like that.
Just had to be distracted and then come back to it, and you would have had
it. But yeah. Thank you, guys.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.